And here we go again. Another little house on the prairie. And we're picking it up at their first night. Well, actually, the first few days in their new house that they're going to stay in over the winter, the surveyor's house. And Pa is playing the fiddle again. He played one for Mary, a song for Mary, and now he's going to play one for Laura. Then Pa's fiddle twinkled short, gay little notes, and he sang, I'm Captain Jinks of the Horse Marines, I feed my horse on corn and beans, and I often go beyond my means to court the girls all in their teens, for I'm Captain Jinks of the Horse Marines, I'm Captain of the Army. Pa nodded at Laura, and she went on singing with the fiddle. I'm Mrs. Jinks of Madison Square. I wear fine clothes and I curled my hair. The captain went on a regular tear and they kicked him out of the army. Laura, Ma said, Charles, do you think that's a nice song for a girl to sing? She sang well, said Pa. Now, Carrie, you must do your share. Get out here with Laura and see what you can do. He showed them how to hold hands and step to the tune of a polka. Then he played it and they danced while he sang. First the heel and then the toe. That's the way the steps do go. First the heel and then the toe. That's the way the steps do go. First the heel and then the toe. Faster and faster he played, and faster they danced, with higher and higher steps back and forth and whirling back again, till they were breathless and hot with dancing and laughing. Now then, said Pa, try a bit of a waltz. And the music flowed smoothly and gliding along waves. Just float on the music, Pa said, and sang to them softly. Just float on the music, glide smoothly and turn. Laura and Carrie waltzed across the room and back, and around the room, while Grace sat up in her ma's lap and watched them with round eyes, and Mary listened quietly to the music and the dancing feet. Why couldn't Mary do it? Well, she was blind, but if they let her, she should be able to dance. Maybe she already knew those steps from when Pa taught her long ago when she was older than the other girls. Kind of like how Grace is sitting in Ma's lap. Maybe that's what Laura and Carrie did while Pa taught it to Mary. That's fine, girls, said Pa. We must have more of it this winter. You're growing up now, and you must know how to dance. You're going to be fine dancers, both of you. Oh, Pa, you aren't stopping, Laura cried. It's long past bedtime, said Pa, and there'll be plenty more long, cozy evenings before spring. Bitter cold came down the stairway when Laura opened the door. She hurried up the steps carrying the lighted lantern, and behind her Mary and Carrie hurried. There was a little warmth around the stovepipe that came from the room below, and close to it they undressed and with shivering fingers pulled their nightgowns over their underflannels. Chattering, they crawled into their cold beds, and Laura blew out the lantern. In the dark, she and Mary cuddled together, and slowly the blankets lost their chill. All around the house, the black cold of the night was as high as the sky and as wide as the world, and there was nothing in it but the lonely wind. Mary, Laura whispered, I guess the wolves have gone. I didn't hear them howl, did you? I hope they have, Mary answered drowsily. And that's the end of that day and the end of that chapter. So the next chapter is called Winter Days. And here's looks like Laura and Carrie skating on Silver Lake. Are they skating on skates? Looks like they're just sliding on their shoes, doesn't it? Or their boots. I don't know if they had both kinds or if they just wore their shoes as boots. I know they were made out of leather. Okay, so let's get on to Winter Days. That was the surveyor's house in the background, too. The weather grew colder. Silver Lake was frozen. Snow fell, but always the wind blew the ice clean driving the snow into the tall grass of the sloughs and driving it into waves on the low shores. On the whole white prairie, nothing moved but blowing snow, and the only sound in the vast silence was the sound of the wind. In the snug house, Laura and Carrie helped Ma with the housework, and Grace played running about the big room with toddling short steps. Whenever she was tired of play, she climbed into Mary's lap, for that was the warmest place, and Mary would always tell her a story. Listening to stories, Grace would fall asleep, and then Ma laid her in her trundle bed by the stove, and they all settled down for a cozy afternoon of knitting and sewing and crocheting. Pa did the chores and walked the trap line he had set along the edge of Big Slough. In the lean-to, he skinned foxes and coyotes and muskrats and stretched the furs on boards to dry. The prairie was so desolate and the wind so cold that Mary did not get out at all. She loved to sit sewing in the pleasant, warm house, taking tiny, even stitches with the needle that Laura had threaded for her. At twilight, Mary did not put away her sewing. She told Laura, I can sew when you can't see to, because I see with my fingers. You sew more beautifully than I can any time, Laura told her. You always could. Even Laura liked the cozy afternoons of rocking and stitching and talking a little, though she never would truly enjoy sewing as Mary did. Often she was restless in the house, and then she could walk from window to window, looking into a whirl of snowflakes and listening to the wind till Ma said gently, I declare I don't know what's got into you, Laura. When the sun shone, no matter how cold it was, Laura must go out. When Laura would let them go, she and Carrie, while wrapped up in coats and hoods, with shoes and mittens and mufflers on, went sliding on Silver Lake. Holding hands, they ran a little way and then slid on the dark, smooth ice, first on one foot and then on the other. With little runs between slides, they went back and forth, breathless and warm and laughing. Those were glorious days when they were out in the glitter of the sharp cold. And then it was good to come into the warm, close house and good for eating supper. And through the evening of music and singing and dancing, Laura was the merriest of all. One stormy day, Pa brought a wide square box in by the stove, and with his pencil he marked it off in small squares inside a plain border. Whatever are you making, Pa? Laura asked, and he answered, Wait and see. He heated the tip of the poker red hot in the stove, and carefully he burned black every alternate little square. Are you getting it figured out? Curiosity killed a cat, Pa, Laura said. You look pretty healthy, said Pa. Tantalizing, he sat there whittling until he had made 24 small squares of wood. Half of them laid in the hot stove, turning them until they were burned black all over. Then he ranged all those pieces in the squares on the board and set the board on his knees. Now, Laura, he said. Now what? Said Laura. These are checkers, and this is a checkerboard. How many of you had that figured out? Oh, really? You did? I'm not surprised. It was one of your favorite games to play when we were back in the classroom. Oh my goodness, you guys got good at it. You would go many, many times before anyone jumped over anyone else. You were really good checker players, those that enjoyed playing it. She learned so well that before that storm ended, she had beaten Pa on one game. After that, they did not play so immoderately. Ma did not care to play, nor Carrie. So after one game, Pa always put the board away. Checkers is a selfish game, he said, for only two can play it. Bring me the fiddle, Flutter Budget. Oh, that's the end of that chapter. Oh my, wolves on Silver Lake, and look at here. A picture of a wolf. What's behind him? That big round thing. You think this because it's a shadow? Do you think it's the moon? I think it is too. Yeah. And who's there? Carrie and Laura. You think they were sliding on Silver Lake? Let's find out. There came a night when the moonlight shone silver clear. The earth was endless white and the wind was still. Beyond every window, the white world stretched far away in frosty glitter, and the sky was a curve of light. Laura could not settle down to anything. She didn't want to play games. She hardly heard even the music of Pa's fiddle. She did not want to dance, but she felt that she must move swiftly. She must be going somewhere. Suddenly, she exclaimed, Carrie, let's go slide on the ice. In the night, Laura. In the night, Laura? Mom was astonished. It's light outdoors. Mom, Laura replied, almost as light as day. Why? Because of the moon, yeah. It will be all right, Caroline, Pa said. There's nothing to hurt them if they don't stay too long and freeze. So Laura told them, you may go for a quick run. Don't stay until you get too cold. Laura and Mary hurried into their coats and hoods and mittens. Their shoes were new and the soles thick. Ma had knit their stockings of woolen yarn, and their red flannel underclothes came down over their knees and buttoned in a snug band around each stocking. Their flannel petticoats were thick and warm, and their dresses of their coats were wool, and so were their hoods and mufflers. Out of the warm house, they burst into the breathtaking air that tingled with cold. They ran a race on the snowy path down the low hill to the stables, and then they followed the path that the horses and the cow made when Pa led them through the snow to water at the hole he had cut in the lake ice. We mustn't go near the water hole, Laura said, and she led Carrie along the lake shore until they were well away from it. And then they stopped and looked at the night. It was so beautiful that they hardly breathed. The great round moon hung in the sky, and its radiance poured over a silvery world. Far, far away in every direction stretched motionless flatness, softly shining as if it were made of soft light. In the midst lay the dark, smooth lake, and a glittering moon path stretched across it. Tall grass stood up in black lines from the snow drifted in the sloughs. The stable lay low and dark near the shore, and on the low hill stood the dark, small surveyor's house with the yellow light in the window twinkling from its darkness. How still it is, Carrie whispered. Listen how still it is. Laura's heart swelled. She felt herself a part of the wide land, of the far deep sky, and the brilliant moonlight. She wanted to fly, but Carrie was little and almost afraid. So she took hold of Carrie's hand and said, let's ride. Come on, run. With hands clasped, they ran a little way, and then with the right foot first, they slid on smooth ice much farther than they had run. On the moon path, Carrie. Let's follow the moon path, Laura cried. And so they ran and slid again on the glittering moon path into the light from the silver moon. Farther and farther from shore they went, straight toward the high bank on the other side. Whoa, that's far. They swooped and almost seemed to fly. If Carrie lost her balance, Laura held her up. If Laura was unsteady, Carrie's hand steadied her. Close to the farther shore, almost in the shadow of the high bank, they stopped. Something made Laura look up to the top of the bank. And there, dark against the moonlight, stood a great wolf. And that's where we'll stop for today. I'll try to at least get this chapter done before we go on for the rest of our summer. But right there is where we'll stop for today. All righty. See you later. I love you so much. Enjoy being done for the day. Bye.